Here is our baby Mothman. I'm actually going to do some embroidery on the wings today. We're going to try and do a half moon. Not sure how that's going to work out. And then we are going to switch over to making this Sleepy Hollow style headless mouse. I'm going to be using some magnets that I used in this. Let me show you what those magnets will do. But we're going to put them into, oops. They're pretty decent magnets. So these are pretty decent magnets. They work pretty well on what I tested it by attaching the head to the hand beforehand, and it didn't fall off. So my hope is that'll actually work. Making a headless mouse, we can detach the head. To catch up on everything, though, I'm going to finish this little Mothman from last week. Well, Mothman baby from last week. Because I was aiming for a little bit cutesy. A little cryptid baby that you can carry around on your keychain with you. So we're going to test it to see if I can do just a little bit of a crescent onto the wing. I don't know how it's going to work. I haven't actually tried to do a shape like that as embroidery. So we're going to try something brand new with that today. I really don't know exactly what I should do. I had this theory that I can do a series of lines instead. But it's really going to be hard to tell because it's also very small. Hey, it's Catby. I'm glad you're able to make it. I am now testing my ability to embroider specific things. I'm not sure how it's going to work out. I started just kind of a small embroidery line. I'm going to try and go back over it real quick. My thinking is that if I work small and slow, I might be able to make this look like a crescent moon. And once I make one of them, I will probably wait to do the other one another time. Just because I intend to try and get this done a little bit sooner today. So I've got a little bit rounded, not too shabby there. This is going to be a bit of a process. Basically, I'm just kind of resetting over and over again. Trying to see if I can slightly widen part of it, maybe. Still give it the same curve. No, wrong side. Oh, dang it. All right, I'm just going to ignore that.
Help, Mommy, help. Mommy.
Not me.
Mommy.
Basically, I'm just trying to see if I can get a slightly thickened curve. And if not, I could always just undo the whole thing and try again. As long as I don't make so thick that I wind up tearing the material up. Yeah, I don't think that's going to do what I want it to do. I think that's going to be a skill thing and a size thing. It's got a shape to it, but it's not going to be a crescent moon shape. And that's all I really wanted, was I wanted to give this Mothman just a crescent moon. But instead of worrying about something like that, what we're going to do is I'm going to go ahead and remove all this. Just cut it all loose. And then I'm just going to do some patterns into it. It just won't be a specific shape. It won't be a crescent moon. And then in the future, if I decide that I want to add a crescent moon to the wings, I will probably use the same old reliable method that I used for things like this. 1 second. Where I sewed on another piece of material to give it this heart pattern on its butt. So I will probably do that in the future if I try to do some Mothman wings with little designs on them. And this is just how I have to undo the embroidery. I have to be careful not to cut into the fabric. And the only reason I'm really showing this instead of switching over to the other ring is because I figure this would be important for somebody to know when you're trying to learn how to do something. If you're trying to learn how to do the embroidery and you have a lot of failures to it or little pieces that just don't work, sometimes it just gets stuck. And honestly, that's pretty aggravating too. So when it gets stuck, at least you know what you're going to have to do to undo it. And it's a little bit tedious. And again, you want to make sure that you don't dig into your fabric. But it's definitely better than having to completely start a project over. Which, if I had done this before I put the wings on, of course, that would have been easier too. I wasn't 100% sure this was going to be part of the plan. So there's a lot of little ifs, ands, or buts. This is all a first-time project. So there's a lot of things I kind of learn as I go. And I have to be very careful not to stab myself in the hand too. I've done that where I've got pushed right through and into myself. So if you are trying to do your own plushes, trying to do your own embroidery, this is just one of those little things you might have to look forward to. And knowing that might deter you from even trying, for all I know. I hope not. I hope that if you want to try something, you try it, but knowing how hard it is to undo sometimes stops me from trying to do certain things. And what happened was I was trying to do a shape with my embroidery. So I was trying to do it in layers, but I'm doing it all by hand. I don't have a machine with a computer that's telling it where to move. So I had a whole lot of just trying to see where I wanted it to go. And that does make it very difficult. So I'm going to pull off as much of these strings as I can. And that's not very many, apparently. Now, what will happen when I'm done with this is you'll be able to see that basically it just leaves a little impression. But it's one of those things that is easy to ignore. If you brush the fur a little bit, it kind of helps sometimes. I think I am almost done trying to do this right now. And instead, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and start working on the other wing so we can come up with an idea for how we like it to look. And again, this is just a prototype. This is my first version of this Mothman. So there's a lot of things that are okay. If it turns out to be a failure, at least I know because I tried these things. And that in itself means that I don't have to worry about trying them the next time. You can see I'm actually cutting all the way down into where the fabric finally is revealed. But I'm also still trying to be very careful not to cut into the fabric because that is something that will happen. And little things like that, well, if it tears the fabric, again, it's just a prototype. I just want to see if I can make this one survive. And then if I can, then I can just use it again. Finish it off with other little details here and there. Maybe try a few other things that we might be interested in. I put a lot of stitches in there. I did not realize I put that much into it. So making this into a cute Mothman. Like I said, this was my Mothman plush. So basically, I'm just trying to recover it. Yes, sir, and I will give it to you, but you have to let me work with it. You wanted to show Mommy?
Yeah.
All right, well, you can show Mommy when I'm done with it, okay?
Yay! What happened?
Well, I was trying to give it some red little details on the wings.
Why?
Well, because I thought it would look cute that way. Maybe look cool, maybe look creepy. We had a lot of options on the ways it could look. But what I did didn't work, so now I'm fixing that problem. And it's not fun to fix my problems. Who wants to work on themselves, right? That's not fun. Just be done with it. Walk away. So you can see it's coming. There's parts of it that are coming out. When I tear some of it, it loosens up the other side as well. And all I'm trying to do is get back to fabric. I feel like I should just walk away from it right now and just go to the other side. It seems like it would be aggravating to see. Like, who wants to watch someone undo some stitches? But I'm also kind of dedicated to it now. If you're one of those people like me, sometimes you'll start something and like, nope, I gotta finish it. I mean, it's not like this is important either. All right. I'm going to try one more line. Let's see what happens with it. And if that's not enough, then I will walk away. And it looks like that is not going to be enough. All right, so here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to work on the other wing. We're going to look and see what it'll look like so we can decide if that's something we want to do moving forward. See if I can get that to lock in place. I'm going to do just a little design, just a very simple design. Just enough to get a look at it. I need to make sure I turn off so when you do the embroidery, you do a back stitch to set the thread. You then set it on how wide you want your embroidery stitch to be, and you close up the stitch a bit. And now I just have to use my hand on the back to give it just a little bit of pressure. I don't know what the lighting is doing here. That seems kind of aggravating. Let's see, maybe I can do that. My hand's probably going to wind up being in the way this time. So there we go. Since there are so many different layers there, I've got both the front and the back of the wing. I'm actually not using a piece of stabilizer on the back. I'm going to go ahead and turn off the zigzag so I can reset my stitch. I can always go back over it later. Do some more quick rearranging. All right, so I think that adding just a little bit of red to the wing will actually be a very good thing. I was already pretty sure that it would actually land pretty well. But I also now know that I can't really do an embroidered detail shape. I can basically do lines. I can probably do some spirals on it. But I think that'll look good. I can do a couple extra lines, maybe a spiral right here, just a circle shape to it. And I think that'll make our moth baby look cute. Because as you can see, my attempt to make a crescent moon just did not work. I do have other ways to do that. I could always applique something to the fuzz, the material first. And then next, when I make the next one of these, what I'm going to do is I'm going to insert a little ring right here so that it'll work basically like a keychain, a charm. Thank you, Catbee. I do think that the red will help out a lot. And if you Google Mothman, you're basically going to wind up seeing that. Well, not quite the extra fuzz, but yeah, this is basically what you see when you Google Mothman. So making a baby Mothman like this actually turned out pretty decent. I was pretty happy with that. So today, instead of doing the whole mouse online, what I decided to do was we're going to do the final touches, and we're going to add the last details here today. So I've made this mouse. I even did the embroidery. We're going to start by putting the eyes in there. We're going to keep it pretty simple for the eyes and everything else, because what we're going to do is we're going to set this up with magnets in its head, on the bottom of its head, and the top of the body, so that I can remove that. I made these colors because I thought it would work really well, and then we're going to use this for the cloak. I'm going to basically use just the spider web part. So we're going to turn this into its cloak, and then maybe a hat the same way. I think that'll look cute. If you guys have any preferences while I am working up to that, please let me know. I am more than happy to change a few things. These are my safety eyes. I actually had to go buy some extra locally, which doesn't really bother me, but it isn't as cheap. So usually I buy a whole bundle of safety eyes. You can see that I've used all of this size. And I change the different sizes for different types of plushes. But the mice I'm pretty consistent with. I really like the size of that eye on there. The red and black, yes, I'm glad you do. I like that color, and I think it'll look good with just a little hints of white when I use the spider webs on it. But the other side is I could just use a solid black. Like if you think that it would look better with black cloak and a black hat, which it possibly could. I mean, I've seen that before. I've made it. I like it. It's very cute. But I thought maybe we could add just a little bit of something extra this time just to see how it looks. And I'm hoping I get the eyes somewhat level here. The last time I made eyes on a mouse, I actually messed them up, which happens from time to time. It was all awkward. These eyes turned out really well. But the eyes I'm talking about, they came through like a little super wonky. I wound up having to hand stitch it all the way around. And this is how the safety eyes go on. So sometimes they're built with a point. Sometimes they've got this rounded end. But they've got these ridges. You put the washer on, and those ridges hold it in place. Now, when it's a sharp point, I like to cut that off because I don't want someone to hurt themselves when they try and cuddle it. But with these mice, it's so small that I also have to cut off the end, because there's not much space on the inside. And basically, they would like hit each other and cause the eyes to be like weird shapes. And that's another thing I don't want to happen. I want to do my very best to make sure that the plushes I make look very purposeful. And the downside to the rounded ones is that they don't always poke right through the material. But this one did pretty well. Place. Cut that off. Now, you don't want to cut that too small. I've seen people melt this down. But if you cut it too small, you might actually cut the ridge that is holding your eyepiece in place. And that causes it to just fall right off. Yes, you could just pull it out and put a new one on, but why would you want to do that to yourself? Why do the extra work? I have not found a use for these. I want to find a use for them, but that's just because I'm a hoarder and I like to keep all my little extra pieces of everything, it seems. Okay, now, I'm going to show you how I stuff these mice. Now, if you are curious, I do have a pattern available for these mice. I have them on Etsy, but you can also talk to me directly. But to stuff the mice, the first thing you're going to want to do is make sure that you fill the legs. This fluff does not break up and spread out as much as you might think it would. So you want to do just tiny little bits, put it into the leg, because if you do a whole big wad of it, when you go to try and spread it around and you push through, you can see that it takes a lot of work to get that in there. You're probably not going to get a small piece to break off and compact into the legs themselves. So if you do them first, they'll just have a filling of fluff inside them, and then you fill the rest of the body, and you're good to go. That keeps the legs from being all droopy and soft. Yes, they're still soft, but it keeps them from being empty. It does make a difference. It's a little detail, but I really like to make sure that if anybody ever uses any of the patterns I made, because I designed this myself, and I'm not the best at writing instructions yet. I've only done it for this mouse. So I'm kind of afraid that people will be completely lost because maybe I said it the wrong way or didn't put enough details in there. But I will always start with the legs first. Get that done. And then I will start stuffing big wads of fluff into the body. So today is going to be a Sleepy Hollow mouse. And technically, I thought I was going to call it Ichabod, but I realized Ichabod is not the headless horseman. And then it kind of took me a minute to recoup from that. I'm going to make a cloak for it. And then I'm also planning on making a pumpkin head, which we're also going to put a magnet in. But is there anything you guys want on the mouse head? You guys want to see a particular type of hat? Should I do just basically kind of a witchy hat to it? It'll kind of look a little bit fancy if I do it just right. It might not. I'll do a flat top on it, so it looks a little bit closer to like a pilgrim hat or maybe a cowboy hat. But is there something else that you guys think would be good? The fancy top hat? I could do a fancy top hat. Again, it would be the flat top, but I would do a more narrow and small top or rim to it. Yes, pilgrim. I kind of think that'd be a good one too. So maybe what I'll do is I'll make a top hat for this guy, since it's something I want to come on and off. Since I put a magnet in the top of his head, if I put a top hat on that, that'll be good for this one. And this is going to be my giveaway mouse. Very soon, I'm going to finish up the accessories, but I'm going to make a post for this guy. He's got a magnet in his hand and on his head so he can have new accessories. So if you're not following me and you are interested in getting a little plush mouse, follow. And then whenever it comes down to time for this, I will make a post, and then it'll be anybody who comments, likes, follows, all that stuff will be entered into it, and I will just kind of figure out the randomness. Thank you, Ash. I think this little guy is kind of cute. I really like the colors, but I think it's going to be really fun with the hat being slightly off center. I can do like a clown hat for him and a few other different types of hats. So let's go ahead and finish this up just a little bit. Oh, I almost completely forgot. So I've got the magnets going to go in here. I pulled my magnets out here. Now, these are pretty good magnets. I was very pleased. Oh, no, I actually had this. I was very pleased with my magnets, but I think that I can find some stronger ones. And that's going to be my next goal, is to find even stronger magnets. Not so strong that it won't come off, but definitely stronger. And I definitely have to make sure that when I put the magnets in, that I make them opposite poles for the heads. All right, I think that that's good. Hey, see, I'm picking up all the random stuff I have on my table here. I think that puts it right about the middle. That should be okay. I'm going to slide it. Oops. I'm trying to slide it just a little bit forward. I'm not sure if there would have been an easier way to do this or not. But I think that that's pretty well centered. Now, you can see how strong they are as in general. I think part of the problem is that the stitch in the middle is causing it to not be able to stay flat in the center. So that should be good enough. That should get us where we want it to go. Now, other than a pumpkin head, I don't think that this one's going to have any other exchangeable heads. And if I make the pumpkin head just right, I can also put a ring on it, kind of like the one I've got on his back right here. And I can make it so that it hangs from a keychain as well. Trying to make it as versatile as I possibly can. And not trying to make it too difficult. Right now, I've got a little bit of free space for it. But since I don't know what will or won't work, I'm kind of not trying to dedicate too much time to the prototype version. Yes, I want it to look good. Yes, I'm going to finish it. But I'm talking about like the pumpkin head. I want it to be a jack-o'-lantern, but it's going to be very small. So I'm going to have a lot of things I have to adjust and figure out. Well, maybe not. I might get it and it might work perfectly on the first try. I've had that happen more than a few times. Oops, my fluff is trying to run away as well. This guy is not going to have a magnet in his head, top of his head, just the bottom of his head. So I can do that pretty much last. I can go ahead and keep my fluff from flying away. I've got a fan blowing because it's a pretty hot day today. But that should be enough to keep it from running away on me. And what I'll do is I'll just put the magnet in when I close it up. So that's going to be the head of our mouse. Yeah, I think that not trying to overwork something before I know if it even works is new to me. I'm the type of guy who tends to like, all right, I have this idea, I'm going for broke. But there are some things I have learned that, especially with sewing, it seems, that if I just slow down a little bit, I don't have to overdo it. So, Sweeney, yeah. Sweeney Todd. That does have Sweeney Todd colors, doesn't it? I guess that's a combination of Tim Burton movies. But we do that same general look, that kind of time frame. Sweeney is the name of the headless horse person? That can't be right. That's pretty funny to think, though. I mean, I wouldn't like horribly doubt it. It just seems so wild that would be his name after, especially since Tim Burton made Sweeney Todd as well. Oh, that's what you named him. Okay, I gotcha. I was like, wait, what do you? That can't be. Yeah, that's funny. And it's not something I could even look up. I'm on my phone for the streaming, so I realized, you know what? If you lied to me about it, I wouldn't even know. One day, random in the middle of the night, I would wake up and think about it and go check. Speaking of names, did you guys see the name I gave to the mouse I'm doing for the giveaway? I made a post about it today. I've named him Daints, not Dance, Daints. And we decided on that because I asked my son what I should name him, and he starts dancing around. He wants to call him Dance Mouse. And I said, well, I like that. And then it suddenly occurred to me that I kind of want to give it a weird name, something that isn't exactly an actual word. So its name is Daints. And of course, if somebody wins him and wants to rechange his name, that's totally understandable. I would never begrudge somebody renaming a plush that I've made. I haven't been giving too many tips on how I close up this plush because that's not what I'm thinking about right now. But if anybody's interested and you see something I'm working on and you want to know because you're interested in the pattern, let me know. I'll answer any questions I can. Hey, teeny tiny. We've got a lot of times another viewer named Teeny Ta will be in here. So I just, for some reason, kind of combined the two names. How's everybody doing today? You guys got much as far as weather goes? For me, I've got about 100 degree. No, actually, today was 80, high 80s, maybe low 90s, but it was dry. And that's part of why I am hoping to finish just a little bit early today, is because our rain changed. We were expecting rain Friday, and I was just going to mow tomorrow. Well, now it's looking like it might rain tomorrow, so I might have to hop on the lawnmower and try and get that done today instead. See, I'm working on the side of the camera. Usually I have the camera in a very different position while I'm working on something like this. And I'm actually trying not to stab myself. I've hurt my finger quite a bit. The backs of the needle keep stabbing into me, and I know I need to get a thimble, but I keep forgetting about it. I am glad I managed to get enough of this mouse done beforehand so you guys didn't have to watch the whole process. Because that in itself, honestly, it takes about an hour and a half to do a whole mouse. And just this right now has been half an hour. And that's just been stuffing and closing it up. I'm glad you're doing good, Teeny. Tiny. Dang it. That's twice I've done that to you. I don't mean to, I promise. I'm not forgetting your name. I'm just reading and thinking multiple things at once. And trying not to stab myself is one of them. Try not to hurt myself. I'm not even stabbing myself. What's happening is my middle finger is what I use to push it through. And you can see there's all kinds of marks where the back of this is still so thin that it's stabbed into me. You'd watch me do the whole mouse? Well, I appreciate that. But in this case, trying to hurry up just a little bit is what makes the difference. Okay, I think I have reached the point where I need to go ahead and put in the magnet. Now there is a chance that with timing being what it is, what would you prefer to see me make? Would you prefer that I make the pumpkin head first? Since it's only going to be like a big palm, I'm going to have to add the pumpkin details later. Or do you prefer to watch me make the hat and such? And that's only in regards to trying to keep a little bit of a schedule. I think I need to try and slide this over just a little bit. There we go. That's much, much better. Hat. All right. I'm definitely okay with doing that, Foxy Docs. All right, now, so I don't know if you guys have experience with magnets. Magnets have two poles. If I do this wrong, I'm going to wind up putting the wrong pole in the head, and it just won't attach to the body. So I'm trying to be a little extra cautious with this. And I'm trying to think, maybe what I need to do is also stitch around the magnet. Maybe the next time. All right, so this is down. Gotta make sure I flip it properly. Should be able to stuff that in there and then test it. No! Nah! Dang it. All that effort. At least it's not hard to redo. Just have to get it in here. I want to get it where the neck would be. I don't want it to be at the back of the head. Okay, so that's roughly how it'll set. Oh, dang it! Who would have thought a magnet would decide not to work with me? How rude. Try and just get a little bit more fluff in there. I also have to make sure I don't add this fluff between the magnet. Yep, I think. Oh my goodness. All these silly little things. So being the first time, I had no idea that this would be an issue. I thought, oh, I'll just slide it in. And now I'm realizing that because of all the fluffing in there and the sewing and the eyes, that it's a real cramped space. You could mark it with a sharp. Well, that's the thing. It's going to move, and I have to make sure I get it in the right spot. Yeah, I'm probably going to have to add some stitches just to get the magnet to stay right where I want it. And I'll have to do that afterwards. And I'll just get another piece, do that. Oh, you're talking about a Sharpie on this. That makes sense. I think I actually have one right here. I see what you're saying. Now I've got a mark on there so I know which side goes up. And that's easy enough to see. Yeah, I realized that as I was saying. I thought you were saying at first I could mark the mouse. where it was going to go, and then it dawned on me that that was obviously not what you meant, because that would have done nothing for me. Basically, my mind went in the very wrong direction. All right, let's see if I can get this to work again. I don't want to actually put the magnet on until I sew it closed enough to, or it won't slide out on me again. And I don't want to have another layer of fabric inside of it either, because I don't want to add any more space between my magnets than I already have to have. And if I add too many different layers, I have no idea how many layers of material it'll take to interfere with the magnetism between the two of them. So this should, I just won't close it up. I think basically I'm stitching the whole thing like I want. I'm just not going to close it and tie it, because then I can always undo it afterwards. That should be enough. Why does it seem like all of a sudden there's more or less that it's doing here? Did I put too much in there? Well, I guess it's kind of sturdy. Hey, he does not see what you're saying. He believes he is never. That's not true. I am always wrong. Never right. You don't know what you're talking about, Vlad, the imposter. That's right. I went there. Vlad is one of my gaming buddies. He's one of those guys that really sucks at everything that he does and takes it out on other people, which is unfortunate because he's otherwise a nice guy. I think that moved it around just enough. There is a possibility that part of what is happening is that since that's where the stitch is, that there is some extra material that is in the way. But I think that should do what I need it to do. And I could always try and rearrange it a little bit more with the needle here, like I just did a minute ago. There we go. And let's try that. Let's see. Really? You're not holding at all? That sucks. Where did my magnet go? You were like, oh, that's not the top of the head. There we go. That's funny. I was trying to do it at the top of the head instead of the bottom, so that fixed that problem. Now let's see if I can get some of the stuff out of the way. I think basically what happened here is that there's all this material from where the stitch goes that is interfering, but I think that that's going to be okay. Yeah, it does come off pretty easy. So I may have to readjust the pattern that I use when I make these mice with the accessories. Because while this one seems fine, it's also right on a stitch. So I've got several extra layers that are stopping it from being a real easy connection, as opposed to just a flat layer of fabric. So what I'll wind up having to do is maybe adding a small section right here that is just cotton, or just changing the shape of my pattern just enough to avoid those stitches. Or maybe I can just do the whole head upside down. But for the time being, I think that that's going to work enough for us to see what it looks like. And we'll call this the prototype version of that. So if it doesn't last, that's an okay step. Maybe somebody will still think that they want it enough. All right, I'm going to switch out to black real quick. We're going to make a quick pilgrim style hat. Instead of having the witch top, I'm going to give it a flat top. And then sew that directly onto the head. The extra weight might be enough to stop the magnets from working entirely. But again, I won't know until we get that all put together. And right now I am just switching out my material or my thread from the red that I was using a moment ago. It's a pretty easy process, but there are a few extra steps. Come on, come on. So if anybody is watching this wondering about how to start sewing, how I started sewing, I essentially just decided I wanted to and started. I did find a few things online that helped out for learning. But if you are curious about figuring out how to make your own, I am more than happy to help you out with that. I haven't built any online tutorial. Well, I haven't specifically built tutorials. I have done a few lives. And in those lives, I have gone through and shown a few steps, and now I've posted those on YouTube. So if you do find yourself interested, or if you do wind up buying that pattern, you can follow me on YouTube, and there are a lot of different steps that you can learn there too. And you say you want it no matter what, huh? Well, I can also make some adjustments. If it doesn't work, we can make a few different adjustments, make some changes, try and make it work. So here's what I'm doing with this. I'm going to basically just cut a big section out. And I'm going to make the hat from this as well as the cloak. I don't need it to be perfect. And then maybe I'll be able to use this spider for like make a bag or something like that. He's probably going to need something to carry his accessories in. The mouse is so cute. Thank you so much. I think that this looks cute. But again, the worry is that comes off a little bit too easy. Just a few adjustments will be made. I can already tell a few things that I think will help. And let's see, we're going to go ahead and I have to decide. I think doing a flat top is going to be a little bit harder to do. I can't literally do a flat top here. What I'm probably going to wind up having to do is the top of it, just sew it together, and then hand stitch a rounded top on it. So I'll give it just a little bit of an angle so it gets a little bit wider. I'll do it a little bit too big. I think that'll be less of a risk compared to making it smaller. And since I gave it an angle, it should have enough space so that I can... Oh, I did not... Here's something that's worth seeing. This is the underside of the stitch. What has happened, in my experience, is that my main thread has not been pulled tight enough through the mechanism. So even though I backstitched, I can pull that right out. See? So what I'm going to have to do, and I'm going to back up as much as I can on here. All right, so, oops. My tripod is kind of messing with me. Try that again. I'm going to show you roughly how to fix this. There's two versions of fixing this. One, if your bobbin, which is the part that's underneath here, is loose, that'll happen. What has happened to me the most with this sewing machine is this string is loose. Let me go ahead and tilt up just a little bit more. The way that I have found to fix this, because that was a problem I had all the time. Every time I changed thread, every time I had to fix a mistake or replace the thread in the needle, anything like that. So I feed it through. I have to make sure that the needle is all the way up. So you can see right here. See that right there? That's up as high as it goes. I feed through. Now, what I will do is I will actually reach up here and hold the thread so it can't slide. I will then take this and pull really tight. I'll loosen up just enough to kind of get it to slide through. And that has usually fixed the tension that I need. You go ahead and test it out real quick. A lot of times I can tell by when I pull this thread through, it has the tension that I want. But there are times when you can't really tell that by just by looking. Now, the experience that I had just says that that's most likely what my problem is. So let's see if that fixes us here. Depending on how much I'm sewing, I can also look at the thread, how fast it's unwinding and feeding into the machine to determine, because I've learned that when it feeds fast, that means that it's not doing what it's supposed to do. And here is the underside. You can see that it fixed the stitch. There's the top side. So now you have another method of fixing your thread if you have that happen to you again, Cat B. Because that's what I was trying to suggest might be your problem to begin with. I'm glad fixing your bobbin was all it took, because I definitely would have had to show you that. I don't think I could properly describe those steps. But now if you wind up having a problem and you have your thread is loose like that on you, now you know at least one more method of fixing that might help you out at least a little. Okay, now we are aiming for a pilgrim style hat. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go ahead and flatten this out just a little bit. It's not going to be full on pilgrim. There's not going to be a divot. Not going to be super fancy. I think the web pattern is okay. Maybe next time I will pick a better spot for the web pattern. See, I've got that there. If it was right here, it would look a little bit better, and I'd be a little bit more deliberate. So say, for example, I could bring it closer to where it's close together, or maybe a section where it comes off of. So that's just a tiny mistake at the very least that I will pay attention to next time. I haven't used this material or this pattern for this kind of thing before, so I'm going to try and do that this time right here. I'm going to have this part as the hat, the brim of the hat, I mean. I'm actually going to go ahead and fold these over. What's going to happen is it's going to be center out. You know what? That's not going to work. That section of material is just not going to catch very much of the pattern. And I think part of the problem is going to be that most of this has the spiders in it. So let's see if I can find something close to the edge that also has the center of the web. And it really does not look like I do. The closest I can come is a little ways in on that spot. So I'll go ahead and use this one over here. It's just a little closer to the edge. All I need is that section right there, this section right here. So I'm going to go ahead and cut from there, and then I'll just save as much of the material as I can. I just need to make sure that that's going to come out from the top, because then what will happen is the top of the brim of the hat will have that spider web material, that spider web design. And even if you can't see the center because the top of the hat, what's the word? It's not the point. I guess I just don't know very much about that kind of stuff. But basically, that'll be the top of the brim of the hat. And then I will pick and choose here as well. Doing my best to keep as much of the material and the pattern as I can, even though the bottom of the hat won't be as visible. So that should be close to the center of my hats. I'm not worried about it being perfectly circular. If I was, I could definitely draw that out. Cut a piece of paper for the shape that I want. Just use a compass. There's a lot of things you can do to get yourself as perfect a circle as you want. And I am sewing slow because this material is actually really soft. It's very stretchy. I kind of think I got it intending to make leggings and just never had anybody to make the leggings for. You could do the spider for the cloak. Oh, yeah, that'd be a good idea. I mean, we're going to be doing an orange pumpkin for the extra head anyways. I think throwing that spider on the edge, even if it's just part of the cloak, will look really good. Very good idea, Cat B. Thank you very much. I am probably going to have to do a second stitch on the outside to make this a little bit more firm. I'm cutting off as much of the excess as I can, and then I'm going to cut some lines so that it takes the curve a little bit better. I am going to leave this here because I need it to tuck in. But at least with this part, it's already sewn, so I don't have to worry about it tucking in. And I'm going to cut several little sections, little slits into the rest of the hat so that when it right sides out, it'll actually take that curve a lot better. If not, it's very hard for fabric to turn like this. So when you have the little cuts in there, it actually allows it to take its shape, the shape that you want, a little bit easier. Get that inside out, right side out, I guess. See, that'll look nice on the top of the hat. Somehow I managed to get just a little bit of the spider, but that's okay. I think that that'll be all right. And that's the bottom of the hat, which isn't bad, but on the top, it just wouldn't have looked as good. And that's roughly what would have happened with any of the part of the material that I originally cut to use for this. And all I'm trying to do is tuck in this section, and then I'm going to want to round it out as much as it'll let me. I could probably, and I might have to hand stitch it to get it to round just a little bit. Depending on circumstances, sometimes what I can do is just sew real close to the edge, and then it'll keep that circle. So right here, it actually looks like it wants to. So I'm going to trust it. I'm going to see what it does. And I'm going to do my very best to keep it close to the edge so it seals that opening and keeps a nice little round. I've got these little tiny pliers. I'm going to try and use that to tuck this in just a little bit better. That should be just enough. Now, if you were watching earlier and you saw how I closed the back of this, you can use that stitch right there to close that edge. Add character. I think so too. I think that it'll add a little bit of shape to it, Cat B, and it'll make it a little bit more firm, but it'll also have like a rounded brim on there. I think it'll just add a little bit more, and it'll look good, I think. I hope. But you could use the stitch that I use to close plushes usually, and then if you wanted to, you could add another outer stitch like what I'm doing now. But depending on what you're doing, sometimes you can just close it up. I'm having just enough issue trying to keep it tucked in. I'm going to go ahead and pull this string to kind of get it just a little bit of extra pressure. Come on. I think I accidentally got it a little bit too close to the edge. I like to sew on the right-hand side, and usually I'm pretty good at knowing where the stitch line is going to be. But I think on this one, somehow between the softness of the material and the size of what I'm working on, I think it's going to be a little bit uneven. I just don't think it's going to be enough to really ruin it. And if it does, then I'll just start over. Or I'll finish this and then start it over again later. I can see it kind of buckling up as it goes through the feed dogs every so often. All right. That loose. I'm going to cut my threads loose. I have to say, the underside, the way that web looks, it kind of looks like a turtle shell or ribs. And I think that would be kind of fun to do with something as well. So that's going to be something I have to keep in mind. But I think that'll look really good on the top. Now, with that here, did I make it too narrow maybe? Let's see. Let's try and put some fluff in there and see if I can't determine how thick it is. Since it's open at both ends, it's going to be a little bit weird just to try and get the shape of it right now. Now all I'm trying to do is get just enough in there. It's basically like filling a pipe and trying to keep it from going out the back end. Okay. Yeah, that should be enough for me to see how thick it's going to be. Like I said, I'm going to probably sew another end on the top here, but there's a chance that what I'll do instead is bring this in. No, I really don't know exactly how I'm going to sew that top. Probably hand stitch it, but do we like the thickness of this hat, this design? It is a little bit hard to tell when it's not on the mouse. So here is our hat. Trying to decide where I want that to be. Let's go. Oh, there we go. If it goes over the ear that's a little bit lower, that'll look good. And then attach that. I think that'll look okay. I don't think it will ruin it. It just gives it character and it will look so cute. Awesome. And more like a witch hat. Well, if I do the flattened end, I think that it'll balance between it. It's a good size. Well, excellent. Thank you so much, Foxy. And I think that having that little loop will give it a little bit of character too. And it kind of matches that ear, how it comes down. All right, so now to determine the order of setting this up. I think that if I start off by sewing the top on, if I sew this on first, man, this is going to be such a small circle. Okay, so here's what I'm going to do. I'm just going to cut off a small section. It's not going to be a perfect circle because what I'm going to do is I'm going to hand stitch it. Since I'm not running it through the machine, I can just tuck it in and just pull it tight in accordance to where I want it to be. The biggest problem is going to be that I have to right side it out again. Oops, right side it in. That little touch of orange right there, I think that'll wind up being kind of cute. Hopefully it won't stand out. The truth of the matter is I hope that it won't stand out. But the good news is if it does, I think you're right. I think it just gives it just enough character where it won't ruin anything. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to be sewing essentially like this. In fact, it's almost exactly how I'm going to be sewing it. I have to give myself just a little bit more room so you guys can see what I'm doing. Now, what I'm going to wind up doing is I'm going to do my very best to keep this as open as I can. And I don't want to put I could put fluff inside right here. It's right side in. But I think that if I put fluff inside there, I'll stitch that in and I'll almost never get all the fluff out of it. So I'm going to just do a back stitch all the way across. very slowly. And you can see what happens is I'm roughly doing a figure 8 over and over again. I go back just a little bit between these two stitches, go through, and then back again, like that. When I pull it through, I pull it tight, and then repeat. And what happens is I create a line of stitch that, from my experience, has been very sturdy. I just have to make sure I get the rest of the hat in the right position. So again, I go backwards through them both. Oops. Pull tight. Now, I'm sure that there are a lot of different types of stitches out there. I have considered the idea of doing a little bit more research to find some. What wound up happening is these were the stitches I found when I did my initial research. So I am really not sure what is the best methods. I don't think the orange will stand out, but look like it has a little paint on it. It does. It's like I said, it's ever so slight. You can really see it when you look for it, but I can easily imagine you missing it as well. Especially if we get the orange cloak or the spider onto the cloak. I really think that that's going to work out pretty well for that. And I could always use a Sharpie on it if I needed to. I'm hoping, see, I can't bring more material out. I am a little bit worried that what's going to happen is that this hat is going to fray a little bit too easily, but it is also such a small piece that it may not be something I have to worry too much about. It may be just something I'm overthinking. Not that I'm known for overthinking, but I definitely can do that. It has happened once or twice in my life. No Sharpie. Leave the orange. Leave the orange. I think that just falls into the overthinking category. Like, if I needed to, I could, but I'm pretty sure you guys have all convinced me that it's going to be okay. And I definitely appreciate that. It's very helpful to get the feedback, especially on something that is a first-time try when I make the little mistakes. Because if it's a first-time try, it doesn't always need to be perfect. But the more mistakes that are involved, the harder it is to see what you wanted it to be. At least for when I work on projects, that's how it is for me a lot of times. Not particularly being a perfectionist, I don't mind mistakes, but there are limits. Okay, and I'll do one more and tie it off. Go. Pat, it'd be okay. I appreciate that. And I will definitely leave the orange, guys. All right, let's see if I got enough of this to work like I wanted it to. Come on. Come on. I have to be careful. Again, this fabric is so soft that if I try too hard, if I force it too much, it might start to fray and or tear at one of my cuts. All right, so there's the top of our hat. Almost has the anarchy on it. And this is roughly what I would do if I was making an actual top hat. I might make it a little bit wider, and then I would just make it a more narrow brim. So I'll probably do a top hat like that for this guy. I'll do a maybe black, maybe not. Once I kind of get to rolling with it, I'll do an actual top hat for him. Oops. Now I've got a little bit of experience basically doing the same thing for the witches' hats. Once I stuff this in, I will actually sew all the way through. If I get this too stuffed, it's going to be bulky on one part, so I'm trying to even it out so it doesn't have a big fat end to it. Then, oh, see, it still has that fat end. Let's try and use something thinner. Pull out some of this. I'm just trying to get it in there evenly. All right, that should be a little bit better. All right, do we still like the shape of this hat? It's going to be a little bit smaller because I'm going to lose some of the bottom of it. Pink to go with the blue and purple. That wouldn't be too bad of a color at all. And what I could do is I could always make it pink. And then if the winner says that they want another one, maybe something else. Okay, cool. Excellent. Now, let's get some more thread here. This whole process is tedious, tiny little bits of work. And I enjoy doing a lot of this different stuff. I really do. But I'm also trying to balance on a lot of different things. Like I want to make things as easy as possible. Because if I make several of them, I don't want to spend like hours on each one. But the more I learn, the more little things that I've done, some things just wind up being different. And part of that is I have to view this as a business. And I've done art my whole life in different ways. Drawing, painting, sculpting, all that different stuff. And it's always just been something I love doing. So it's always been hard to transition between art business and art love, art gift. You know, what I mean is by gift, I mean by giving as a gift. And I say that in regards to something like this being so much more difficult than just, if I was doing a clown hat, I could have completely finished a clown hat from start to finish with like this, like I normally do. So I think there's a few things along these lines that I have to keep in mind that I have to adjust for. All right, now, let's see where... Let's do a couple things to kind of look around here. First off, I've already done that once. There we go. So here's the top. Here is my top. We're going to do over to the side just a little bit. I think that if we did that at the front, that might be better. Here, let me go ahead and get a pin real quick. Let's see. How do we like the hat? Do we like the hat here? Oops. Do I need to turn it more? That's not too bad if it's flat at the front or curls up on the sides. And then I had this here. Because I think the options are slightly to the front or on the sides. So do we want the brim of the hat to go like that or to be partly up in the front? Orange facing the ear. Oh, the rear. So you think like that? It kind of does look like a cowboy hat. So what we can do, let's say we want orange facing the ear. And then we want the brim to be slightly to the front. To the front, it does look more Western, yeah. To the right ear, gotcha. So is this what we're thinking? The orange is right here. Yes, that's awesome. All right, thank you. All right, how I'm going to do this is I'm actually going to do the stitch directly here. This should be just enough to keep it right in place. Then I can sew the top of the hat directly on as well. So that should keep it from moving on me, which will be helpful. Now I just have to adjust little bits and pieces here and there. Eh. As you can see, a lot of this stuff is really just kind of tiny little bits of changes. I can always make the hat just a little bit wider, a little bit more, a little bit shorter as I go. So I'm basically sewing the hat to the head at the same time I'm sewing the top of the hat to itself. This is almost the same method I do this for the hats, or the heads to the body. How do I buy her for my niece? She's going to be 25. Her name Nancy. She's in college. Honestly, what we'll do is we'll figure out something after this. Normally what I do is I charge 25 for a mouse. This is a prototype, so there's a few things that might not work for it. So let me finish, and we'll see if it even works. And then we'll kind of decide from there, because I'm adding magnets to it. You know, doing these magnets on, so that I can change the head out. There's a whole lot of stuff that I have to kind of keep in mind. Like, I'm afraid that this is going to be such a colossal failure that I'm going to have to undo and redo the whole thing. I've already found that the magnets are trying to be problematic. But one way or another, we will make sure we get Nancy a nice little mouse, and we could even do the exact same, well, almost the exact same stuff when we redo, if we have to redo it. I got so many small stitches here. I'm trying to make sure I don't ruin this material. I'm afraid that if I do too much too tight, it might tear right through it, especially since I did a few other things to it. Whoa, 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 whoa. What are you doing there? That was close. That could have been terrifyingly horrible. Now I'm trying to do very teeny tiny stitches. Again, it's a combination of the size of what I'm doing and the material I'm using. But it is a little bit harder on the head to do that because there's so much material I'm going through. I'm going through both parts of the brim of the hat, and then the head itself. All right. Now, whenever I do this, another thing to keep in mind is I am adjusting where each stitch goes, so that I can change the direction that the hat is tilted, how far in the hat goes, all those little things. I'm going back over these stitches. You can, if you look real closely right here, you can see that the material is on the outside. If I tuck it in, it will hide the stitches a little bit better. And I won't have to worry about the fuzz sticking through. It'll look like it's one solid hat. And several little stitches later, teeny tiny. There's also a problem because I'm trying not to stab myself in my hand anymore. It hurts enough already. So I'm not using my middle finger to press the thread through as much. Yes, you can definitely DM me. You can message me anything you want. She lives in... let's see what we have here. Yes, definitely send me a question. Or you can ask here. Katby's been with me for quite some time. You might actually, even if I miss a question, Cat B knows quite a few different things about me too because I ramble. But yes, you can ask here, you can ask privately, and I will be happy to answer any and all questions I can. Oops. Such tiny little stitches. I need to make like a full-size hat. I know that they make them out of felt, but I need to make a full-size hat, and then I need to make a mouse that wears the same hat so that you can wear them around and be besties. Okay, now before I go any further, that looks like roughly what this hat's going to look like. What do we think? Do we like the shape? Do I need to make it smaller? I can probably sew it in a little bit more if I wanted to do something like that. So we like it as is then? Awesome, awesome, awesome. Okay, all right. Let me finish this off. I'm just going to do a couple more stitches. I like to back stitch just a little bit because I think it makes it just a little bit stronger. But I also have to make sure that I don't put any slack. One of the things that happens is if you wind up setting your stitches uneven, it starts to pull the material in different directions. And I really liked how the brim of the hat is sitting. So I'm trying to make sure that I don't do something that causes the brim to pop up on me. Let's see. I think I can see some fuzz here. Let's make this a tiny little stitch. Got to make sure this goes all the way through, of course. I'm not even sure how many stitches went all the way through. I think what I'm going to do is like a couple more just to make sure the hat is fully secured to the head. I don't have to get them super close to each other, just all the way through is all that's important. And then up, and I will do one more stitch. And close this off. A lot of times what I will do is I will close my stitch off into the biggest part of the body or biggest part of what I'm sewing. But I don't want to add too many more stitches here, so I'm actually just going to close this up into the top of the hat. Pull through. Make sure I don't cut my material. There we go. Let's see, I'm going to scroll back just to make sure. I wanted to know if you wanted to help me with a project I'm working on. I'm happy to hear about it. You can send me a message. We can talk about it here. Yeah, I love to help people with things, and I love the idea of doing collabs. Like, I've seen a couple of people that do a few different things like I do, like my goofy Pokemon, and I want to reach out and try and do like a bundle pack that people can order where they get stuff from both of us. I've seen mice. I've seen turtles. Look at that. It's got that little tilt forward, like. So I think this actually looks really cute. And then the removable head. All right, guys. So should I make the pumpkin head? You know what? As much as I'm opposed to doing that usually, I think what I may wind up having to do is do this as an early night. But I'm going to look at something here. We're going to see what happens. I think I want to do the cloak. So if I did the cloak like this, and since this is such a thin material, usually what I do is one side and I hem the edge. I think what I can do instead today, I have this simple pattern for the basic shape of my cloaks. If I do two sides of this, what do you think? Should I do this on both sides, this spider web and spider material, or should I do black on the inside? I'm going to cut this out in the meantime. We're going to put this on the bottom of it. See how that looks. Flip this over, get my pins out of the way. But What do you guys think? Should I do a spider web on both the front and the back, or up inside and outside, or should I do the black on the inside? And I kind of want him in the corner, so I'm going to do just a little bit extra here because I'm going to sew two. I'm going to sew them together and then right side it out. Do you have a red that matches the mouse? I have the same red, which I think is here. I have the same red. And I also do happen to have just a red. Use that for the back. Which one? The red or the same red? And I will look at your message here in a minute. Try and do this quickly. My hope is that I will be able to do just enough mowing so that when the rain comes, I don't have to worry about it being 3 feet high, which has happened. We get like a week's worth of rain and the grass loves it. And then suddenly I've got to mow. And what's funny is not funny. What's bad is I used to have to use a push mower. And we have about 3 acres that I have to mow. And well, you know what? Maybe a full acre. But either way, it was so much. But my dad got me a riding lawnmower. Thank you, Dad. Made it so much easier. I think the mouse red would pop. Okay, sounds good to me. So let's do that real quick. Let's see. Did I miss what you were messaging, Foxy? Or yes, I will. In case you didn't catch that, Foxy, I am very happy to help you. I don't know exactly what that would mean in the end. Obviously, I don't want to take over anything that is your project. And I don't know if my work is something that you want help with, as in like to learn, figure out, or collaborate with. So you let me know. I am happy to discuss it. Send me messages directly or here and both, whatever the case may be. Again, I think I said that already, but I wanted to make sure, or here and both, whatever the case may be. Again, I think I said that already, but I wanted to make sure just in case you didn't see. Just close my stream down. Nope. I accidentally hit the multi-screen button, the tab button. What's the button I'm looking for? The apps button. So it started to kind of spread out. All right. So I want to make fashion. Okay. If it helps, I do as well. I also love the idea of using things that I've made in my art and my photography. I've made these oil paintings, and what I did was I made these masks for every different model. And I've got a whole new project that I'd love to work on. So maybe you'll help me by giving me a little bit of inspiration so we can work together on it. So what happened was I accidentally hit the button for a second that opened up the apps tab. And basically, I think it closed mine down for just a split second. All right, so here we go. We are face to face. I am going to use this part right here. No, I think it'll just be better if I do the bottom right here as the part where I sew it or right side it out. Just got to get it all to line up pretty well. I think that I'm also going to pin it just a little bit since it's so small. I don't want parts of it to move on me. So I'm just going to do a few pins just to hold them right in place. I'm going to start here and work my way around. So I'm just going to do another pin up here. See, I could already tell that it was starting to shift on me. You guys hear Boyd? He's whistling. All right. I am going to do this as a little bit of a tighter stitch. Now, if you are doing something like this on a bigger scale, you are probably going to want to do a second line of stitches that are zigzag, especially with this type of material. This type of material does fray. I'm working so small that I don't think I have to worry too much about it, especially since it's meant to go onto a mouse, which, yes, I want to look pretty. I want to look perfect. But also, if a mouse has a frayed edge on its cape, I think that that is perfect. I think that looks cute. And it's definitely worth the time of it happening. So if you have a mouse at home that I have made and he's wearing some clothes that start to fray, just know that that was not a complete accident. If you don't like it, I can make some adjustments and changes and maybe fix it, or maybe help you fix it. But it is part of the plan. I had thought about it, I promise. A single stitch, just a little bit. Okay, I want to make sure I don't close this. If John's in here, don't curse me. Just a few more. Okay, cut that. Get my loose threads cut off. I actually haven't done a double-sided cape yet, so we're going to see if I should be making this that much bigger or not. I think it'll be a slightly smaller cape, but I think in this kind of circumstance it'll look good. Thank you, I appreciate it. Anybody who's new here, there's a viewer that came on named John. I was trying to sew something up, and I literally talked about how I didn't want to close it up because I knew I was going to have to right side it out. And the very moment I started sewing, I closed it up, and John said something about it just as I did it. He was trying to remind me, and it just happened to be that it did not work out because of that. So John has popped in every now and then just to remind me to not close up my stitches. It's actually been kind of funny to me. This is going to look a lot more like a cape than a cloak. And I think that that's going to look really good. It's going to kind of have that regal look to it. Oh yeah, my magic pin. Yeah, just as John was saying, he's surprised because I leave my pins in a lot of time, and I sew right over my pin. Just as he showed up, this happened, and it broke my needle and my pin. So now I've got this as a horrible reminder. John came with a lot of comical moment. All right, let's see if I can get this to right side out just a little bit. I don't really want to sew the edge of this one to give it that shape. So I think what I'm going to wind up having to do is hand stitch this close. I'm going to need more thread than that. There we go. Get back. Okay, so for anybody curious, we are making this headless horseman mouse, this Sleepy Hollow mouse. He's got magnets to hold his head on, and we're going to make a replacement head as a jack-o'-lantern. For right now, I am doing the decorative clothing. So I just made the hat, and now I'm making this cloak. I wouldn't say horrible. It was quite funny. It was actually very funny. I was literally telling people that it doesn't happen very often. Yes, it can, but I wasn't worried. And then boom, right after he said something. Today is going to be a little bit of a shorter day. It is 7:30 where I am at now. Sun will go down about 8:30, maybe 9. Right now, it is probably as cool as it's going to be for the rest of the week. And my intention is to go mow. I hope you understand. I'm really sorry. I do live in Oklahoma, so there is a lot of unpredictable weather that comes through. And it's just that originally the weather was going to be on Friday, and things just changed. And I don't know. I don't pay attention to it. My wife does. And she's the one who let me know. So blame her. Or I can't remember who our meteorologist is, but we've got a famous meteorologist, I'm sure. Oh, come on. Don't get tangled up. I'm just trying to close this stitch up. I don't even need it to be a perfect stitch. I just don't want it to be flat. So I'm trying to round this out as I go and make sure that it takes the shape that I really want. I'm also having to look over my phone because what I'm doing right now is so small that the only way you can see that is at this distance from the camera. Okay, just a little, just a couple stitches as I go. Make sure that it stays rounded. See, if I just left it, it would be flattened out. So that is why I'm trying to do my very best to be a little bit more careful about it. And if I pull it too tight, it pulls from the other end. See? Watch. It does that. Now, if that's what I wanted, if I wanted a crinkly edge, that would be fantastic. But that's not the goal here. So I can only do a stitch or two at a time because of how small it is and that curve. A little bit. And then I got to pull it out again so that it doesn't curl there. Pull out. There we go. Just a little bit more. This is part of the reason why I would put the end part right here. That's going to have the head covering it. It's going to be something I could stitch onto the mouse and I can hide a little bit better. One of the things my dad once said is a big chunk of art is hiding your mistakes. So I've learned a lot of little things like that have helped out. Sometimes you don't have to be perfect if you can just hide the mistake. Oh no. A little bit too close to the edge. Dang it. All right. So to fix that, I'm not sure what my camera's doing for focus. I know my eyes are having problems. Apparently I'm getting old enough where that's relevant. Which I know is aggravating to everybody, but I feel like to artists, that's just so much worse. Okay, pull that back out. It's funny how such a simple thing, it was less than 2 inches worth of stitching. And it's taking so long because of how small it is. I think I've got a good curve. I think I managed to save that. I will do a back stitch or two. One should be enough, and then I will tie this off. And to hide my knot, feed that back through. Pull that nice and tight. That should be enough to hide everything. Yep, look. Looks like we got the knot hidden. All right. And that should even leave me enough thread to sew this onto the body. Let's see. I'm so sorry. Let's see. No, I'm at work and I can't make the mouse. I'm so sorry. I'm reading through everything on here. The Sleepy Hollow Mouse, I named him Sweeney Todd. I'm a bit late. Forgive me. That's okay, Tinita. This is what we've been working on. This is going to be the headless mouse. I've got a magnet in him so the head will come off. Today we're just doing the clothes for him. But I'm going to make a pumpkin head for it. And that's going to switch out. I'm rolling around here. I have a whole lot of messages that came through, and I'm so sorry, everybody. Let's see. No, I'm at work. Can't make the mask. I'm so sorry about that, Naughty Wolf. And why don't you sew these ones with the machine? Oh, it's okay. So I did do something different. Usually I will make a cloak that's one-sided, and then I'll fold that over and do the sewing. Well, this one I did a two-sided cloak. So because of that, I had to leave an opening to right-side it out. And because I don't want to, on the brim of this hat, I sewed right along the edge to make it a little bit more sturdy. But on the cloak, I didn't want it to be as sturdy. I want it to be a little bit more loose. Now, it may wind up being that I have to stitch it anyways because I don't want it to do, I don't want it to do this. But to begin with, at the very least, I wanted to see if I could get it to be a little bit more of a flowy cape since it's so small. Didn't want the outline. The outline would have been okay because it just would have been like here. You probably wouldn't even see it on the top. But really, it is all about the idea of it being a little bit more flowy than adding that stitch would make it. And the stitch will make it more solid for two reasons. One, there is thread there. So there is another layer of material. But it also prevents the movement that would be there. So it's just a subtle difference, one that probably won't last, but we're going to find out. This is part of a test. I haven't made a cloak this way before. So all these little things are just kind of adding up. My next question for you guys, let's go ahead and put this head back on. Do we like, over the arm? I guess since the spider's there, it would probably be better to be over the arm this way. Do we like over the arm? Yes, I'm going to make a jack-o'-lantern head with a magnet as well so that it holds on. And I'm going to try and make that head so that I can wear it as a keychain too. I'm going to put a little ring in there. Yes, over the arm is running like it's running or riding the horse. That's kind of what I was thinking. It makes it a little bit more regal too. And then it'll have an entire side exposed. But we also, just so we can see, we do have the normal classic way of putting it on the back. All right, that's 2 votes over the arm. That sounds good to me. I'm going to pin it a little bit close to the front. Now, one of the things I have to make sure that I do is I have to make sure that I keep the metal loop right here exposed so that you can still wear this as a keychain. I don't know if anyone's going to do that. I don't know if it's even worth it because of how the head is not so strongly magnetized to it. Yeah, the magnet actually caught my pliers there. And I also do have to make sure that I keep it over enough so that the magnet is still fully exposed. So that's a couple things I definitely have to keep in mind. I'm going to go ahead and start my stitch on the body so that I can tie it through here. And I am just going to start a running stitch all the way across. A back stitch all the way across, just like I did when I attached the hat itself. I use the body by itself. Hello, great convo start. So, gotcha. So just wearing the body, like, why do you have... And I don't even know if people would be able to say, like, why do you have a cloaked mouse body on your keychain? I'm trying to hold it in place so that I don't lose my place. So I don't lose my plan. And what I could do with something like this, so with my giveaway mouse, which, by the way, Tina, oops, hold on a second. This is going to be my giveaway mouse. This mouse actually has a magnet on its hand and on its head. So it will have accessories that it can carry and change out. Now the thing is, what was I trying to work on here? You know what? I don't even remember where I was going. I think I was just trying to show you that as in general, as part of my plan for a giveaway, because I know you weren't here earlier. Yeah, that's got to be it. That's got to be all I was thinking. I just lost my whole entire train of thought, like mid-sentence. Got to make sure I keep my... Oh, that's what it was. All right, so when I make the giveaway, I'm thinking about making a bag for his accessories, like a small backpack that you can carry the mouse in, or you can carry the accessories, and you can put that on a keychain as well, so that you have travel ability with it. And you don't have to worry about losing your hat. You can just take it off after you're done showing everybody. I completely forgot where my train of thought was there. That's so funny to me. All right, let's make sure that I've got the magnet there. Still good. Excellent. I think I'm going to leave the corner of this just a little bit exposed and start back stitching. That way it's got a little bit less pulling on anything. Almost there. I'm just going to go ahead and tie this off. Come on, you could do it. Just a tiny bit. There we go. I barely had enough to get that around there. Want the giveaway? Well, when I post it, what's going to happen is... Here, check it out.
Oh, that's cute.
And he's got it.
Oh, I love the spider.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a cute red. I just picked it up. So what I'm going to do, what I did with my last giveaway, was I made a post, and that specific post had to be liked, followed. You had to be following me. You had to like it. And what I would do is I rolled a 20-sided die to determine how many 6-sided dice I would roll. And then that was the person that I picked. And there were a lot of people on it. So it does give the possibility of the first person. But this time I'm thinking maybe I should do a randomizer. So I might need some help finding something to do a random with. I haven't finished. The giveaway will be after I figure out how to finish this guy. I'm going to do all his accessories, the things that he can hold, and all the hats. And then I will decide on the bag, what kind of bag I'll do. I might do like a leather bag. And I have to do the bag last because I want it to match, at the very least, the mouse. But I'm not sure exactly what details. So there's a lot of time before then. I will need a lot of help. Send as many opinions as you want, as you can. When I post this guy, anytime I post this guy, keep an eye out for it because it could be the giveaway or I could be asking for what accessories we want for it. So we've got a little bit of time. But yeah, just kind of keep an eye out and that'll be great. Now, here is our regal body. I do think that the cloak over the arm looks really cute. And I think that if I had like other things like to pin it down with, I could pin it, but I want to still make sure that people can still wear it as a hair clip and a clothespin. Little paper envelopes in the bag. What do you mean little paper envelopes in the bag? Oh, in his bag? No. Well, I could definitely make an accessory bag for this little guy. But I'm talking about like a small backpack that goes on a keychain that he fits in and his accessories go into for the giveaway. And ta-da! Again, I think that, see, the weight of the hat, the space between the magnet, it does make it a little less, like, you wouldn't want to carry this around. and then it goes and stays in place. But if you're walking with this, that head's gonna disappear. It's gonna fall off at some point. It's gonna be super sad. And maybe what I need to do is put snaps in it. But I didn't want to do snaps because then the snaps in the hat, those are just so much harder to do. So we're going to test the magnets for the accessories here. Now that we know how this works, I will make some adjustments maybe if I do this one. The head can stay in your pocket. Indeed. And then if I put like a little metal loop on get the metal loop onto the jack-o'-lantern, you can have them both hanging together. I think that turned out pretty decent, pretty fun. All right, guys. I really appreciate all of you sticking around. Remember, follow me. Watch out for the lives. I do Weird Wednesday, which this is my weird guy for today. I do Not Pokemon Monday. And I do a goofy Poke-inspired plush on Mondays. I do some impromptus, but I haven't been able to do as many of those yet. I do those randomly at home, and I work on different projects. I do customs. I do a lot of different things. We're probably going to do the jack-o'-lantern head next Wednesday for this one so that we can see what it looks like. And then I will start a new project. I had some ideas on what I'm going to work on. Last week, I made this tiny Mothman. I had to undo this because it didn't work out. But here is the red on the wing to match the tiny moth baby plush. And I'm going to put a ring on the back so it can work as a keychain as well. I just haven't done it to this one. This is my prototype. So if you have some suggestions on things that needs to be done as well, I will definitely change it. But here is where we're going to end off for the day. I'm going to see what we can do here. Make this look a little cute. Stand him up. I think he'll stand up. I'm pretty sure that he will. It's trying to tell me no. And let look a little cute. Stand him up. I think he'll stand up. I'm pretty sure that he will. It's trying to tell me no. And let's see. Whoops. I just hit the button on the side of my phone when I was doing that. Sorry about that. Sorry. Here we go. This is what we made today. Thank you guys ever so much for coming out. Send me a message, Foxy. We'll figure out what you want to do. Keep an eye out, and feel free to message me on ideas for how to do the giveaway. I definitely want to do a random thing where I enter names, but I don't know how to do any of that yet. So thank you guys so very much. I'm going to go mow the yard. You have a great night.